Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here then welcome, and today we are going to be doing my April reading wrap up. Now appreciate that I am actually filming this very late. It is actually the 23rd of May when I'm filming this. It is currently 30 degrees outside, but I need to get this reading wrap up filmed for you guys, so let's just get into it. Let's not waste any more time. Before we start this video, I just need to say I think April has been my best reading month yet. I read so many great books, and I wrote down a little list of everything I read, and I read three 5-star books and 2 4-star books. In total, in April, I read 8 books. 8 in 1 month. That's my best month yet. And I thought before we kind of go into my reviews and ratings of these books, we should recap on what was on my TBR for April and how many of those I ticked off. So in April, I had 6 books in total on my TBR for the month, and of those 6, I managed to finish 5. I'll put a little visual on the screen to show what ones I did and didn't finish. And obviously I did a little bit of mood reading as well, because I read a total of 8 books for the month. I feel like now we should get into my thoughts and feelings on those 8 books. To start the month of April, I started with Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Now, I borrowed this from the library and I heard so many great things about this book. However, sometimes I'm a bit nervous when I have heard so many positive things about a book. I'm like, oh, this feels like I'm gonna have my hopes too high. But I think this is my favourite book I have read so far this year. It is the only book I finished it and I was like this. I finished it and I was like, I looked at Matt and I went, I loved that book so much. It didn't make me cry, but it made my eyes watery. It made me teary. It actually made me feel things. I can't explain it. I've not cried at a book, but it's the closest I've been, the most I have felt whilst reading a book this year. I just absolutely loved it, and if you haven't read it, I 100% recommend. I've heard amazing things about the audiobook. I read the physical book, and it is now out in paperback. So if you're someone who prefers a paperback book, it is now available as a paperback. But I got mine from the library, which I was really pleased with. If you don't know much about Atmosphere, if you don't know what it's about, it is based in America. So Atmosphere is set in the 1980s and it's following your main character Joan. She has been obsessed with the stars, obsessed with space for as long as she can remember. Like, gets the opportunity to train with the Space Center, and there's an opportunity to potentially end up going to space. And it kind of follows a few different paths of Joan's life. So you've kind of got the story of her studies and wanting to become an astronaut and wanting to go to space. You've kind of got that story. You've got the story of her family relationship with her sister and her niece. And then you've also got the story of kind of her friendship group and relationship to follow as well. There's a few different things going on and a few different timelines, but I must say, I found it really easy to follow. It wasn't complicated, it wasn't confusing, and I was really attached to a lot of the characters. And I felt annoyed at characters. I thought some characters were so adorable. I just loved it, and I would 100% recommend that you add Atmosphere to your TBR if you haven't already. And there's a few books by Taylor Jenkins Reid that are on my sort of TBR, both physically and like just saved on Goodreads. And I can't wait to read the next one, because the way she wrote that book, I lapped it up. I just loved it. I loved it. I can't explain it enough. Then moving on to my first audiobook of April. Now, if you followed me for a while, if you've been subscribed to me for a while, you may know that I struggle with audiobooks quite a bit. And I think the main thing is I struggle with some voice acting, I struggle with concentration because I usually listen whilst I'm on a walk or whilst I'm doing my book journal, and sometimes I get so into my crafts or like distracted just by like the nature around me that I'm not taking in the story. But that being said, there have definitely been a couple that I've enjoyed. So the first audiobook that I listened to in April was The Intruder by Freida McFadden. Now I thought I would give this a go because I listened to Dear Debbie earlier this year on audiobook and I really, really enjoyed it. I think that's one of my favourite audiobooks that I've listened to so far. This one I struggled with a little bit more. I just don't know if I was in the right headspace. So I was like listening to it and then I wasn't taking it in, so I was having to rewind, and yeah, I just don't know if I was in the zone for it, and I think maybe like in a few months' time I would want to reread this as a physical book. I gave it 3 stars because I enjoyed it, but I didn't feel hooked on it like I have with previous Freida McFadden books. I don't know. Like I'm sat here and I'm like, oh, how do I actually describe what happened in this book? Like it's not fresh in my brain. So The Intruder is about a woman in an isolated cabin during a hurricane finds a blood-covered, knife-wielding teenager hiding in her shed. As the two clash during the storm, the story alternates to the past, ultimately revealing the girl's true identity and a shocking cycle of shared trauma. I think I need to reread it because I don't remember any of that. My third book in April was My Husband's Wife by Alice Feeney. Now, again, I saw lots of people saying that this, like if they would recommend any thriller book to read this year, it would be this book, and you know, just so many amazing reviews, people literally being like, oh my goodness, I couldn't put it down, absolutely loved it, etc, etc. Now, I'm going to be completely honest because that's what I'm about on this channel. I will always be honest about my thoughts and feelings on books and things. I really enjoyed the first 80% of this book. I was powering through it, I was loving it, but the last 20% of this book literally made me go, eh? What? It just felt so incredibly rushed at the end. It felt a bit like unreliable narrator. That's what it felt like. It was like, why is this coming up now? This could have been brought up earlier in the book. It should have been written in third person if you're going to do that, because I find it so annoying. I don't know. I read this with my friend Freya, and we kind of, when we next saw each other, kind of spoke through our thoughts and feelings on this book, and we both said the same thing in that we sped through it, but then at the end we were like, this feels very rushed and I don't really know why. Like there's literally a part in the book where someone just talks at someone for like a whole couple of pages, like this. I don't want to give any spoilers, but yeah. Basically, if you haven't heard of this book, if you've not seen people raving about it this year, this follows a couple of different storylines, or a couple of different points of view, I should say. You're following a woman who goes out for a run one morning. They've recently moved to Cornwall, her and her husband, and she comes back from a run, knocks on the door, and another woman answers the door. She doesn't knock on the door. She goes for a run, she comes home from said run, and she's putting her key in the door and it's not opening. She cannot get in her house. So she bangs on the door, like hoping that her husband will come to the door and let her in. But another lady answers the door who looks suspiciously quite a lot like her and won't let her in. The husband comes down, also won't let her in. And it's kind of, well, like a mystery thriller, working out what the hell is going on in this little town where not much happens. I gave this 4 stars in the end because I can't deny that I really enjoyed it up until the end, and it's a shame that the ending was disappointing, but I did really enjoy most of it, and I just feel like I wish the ending was handled differently, or I wish it was written from a different perspective, I think is what I'm trying to say. It's my first Alice Feeney book that I've read, but I do definitely still want to read some more of her books because, I mean, people rave about her thriller books, but this one just didn't quite hit the spot for me this time. we are on to the 4th book of April, and I read Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. And there's literally a review on the back here that says, I devoured it. And babes, me too. I loved this so much. I really loved the characters. It felt very sort of cozy and almost familiar. Like, not saying I relate to what was happening in the books, that's not what I mean, but just, you know, like small town, farm life, cozy, quiet area. Everyone knows everyone. Like, it just felt familiar. I think I liked that it was set in the UK because I've read a lot of books sort of set in America recently, so it was nice to read a book set somewhere that I could vision a little bit better, because I've never been to America, but I live in the UK, so that just makes it a little bit easier for me. This is, well, this is following a few different people. How do I describe this? So it's kind of like teenage lovers. Ugh, I hate that I said that, teenage lovers. It's kind of like a teenage couple, and then they split up, go their separate ways, grow up, move on, start their own families, etc. And then as adults, their paths cross again, but they're, you know, they've lived completely different lives for the last however many years. And it's just kind of following what happens on that pathway. Now, when I finished this book, I loved it, and I felt so angry at one of the characters. I was like, what are you doing? Why would you do that? But I've given this 5 stars because I felt so passionately about the characters. I felt that, like, I really loved the characters. I really followed the story, and I really was hooked on it, and I would definitely recommend it. If you are a countryside person who just loves cozy books with a gripping storyline with a couple of different timelines, I would definitely recommend this. I absolutely loved it. Next, moving on to my second audiobook of April, and I listened to Before I Saw You by Emily Houghton. You're following 2 people, 2 different perspectives. It's told from the female main character and the male main character's point of view, and the chapters kind of alternate between the 2 of them. And this is set in a hospital ward, and they have both been through separate horrific accidents, and they're in like a ward together, separated by a curtain. They've never actually seen each other, but they've spoken to each other. And it's kind of following the relationships that they make with the different people in the hospitals, and them kind of overcoming the trauma of their separate experiences and how that affects them and how they socialise and things like that. And it's just a very wholesome read. Obviously it was an audiobook, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I picked this because it was a slightly different genre to any of the audiobooks I've listened to before. I've tried a lot of thrillers on audiobooks, and I'm wondering if that just doesn't work for me. This, I found it much easier to like follow. There wasn't too much, like there were things happening, but there wasn't, you know, in a thriller book there's lots going on, and it's like, ooh, what could it be? And now this has happened, and now this has happened. It's so fast paced. If you miss like a page worth in an audiobook, you could miss a really crucial part. Whereas this was more of kind of like a romance, rom-com kind of book. And it was light, easy, and I mean, it wasn't light in terms of like, obviously they went through traumatic accidents and that wasn't light, but it was just a nice, easy read, and I found it much easier to follow. I actually ended up giving it 4 stars. I really liked the characters. I just thought it was really sweet, and it was quite a nice listen, I would say. So I gave it 4 stars in the end, and I do think maybe I just need slower paced audiobooks might be better for me. Book number 6 in April was Catching Fire by Suzanne Collins. Now, I read the Hunger Games book in March, and I loved it. Gave it 5 stars. Catching Fire, 5 stars again. I've watched all of these films multiple times, loved them, really love the Catching Fire film. So I was excited to read the book, but I was like, oh gosh, I really like the film, so I just really hope this lives up to it. Oh my goodness, the amount that happens in this book, that you just get so much detail from the books that aren't in the films. And I know that feels so silly to say because I feel like everyone knows that. Of course, the book's got more details than the film, but oh, I'm so excited to finish reading this series to then rewatch the films because it's gonna add a whole new layer that I'm just not ready for, you know? And I finished it and I was like, oh, I just want to read the next one, but I haven't. I have behaved, trying to space them out because, yeah. But I don't really know what else to say about this apart from I just really enjoyed it. And if you've seen the Hunger Games films and you really like them and you haven't read the books, I would definitely recommend it. It's a really good time. I'm very excited to read Mockingjay at some point. Moving on to the 7th book of the month, and I also did this as kind of like a mini book club read with Freya in April, is The Names by Florence Knapp. Now, I actually did a reading vlog of this book, so if you want a more in-depth review of how I got on with it, if you want to watch me kind of read it, if you enjoy our reading vlog, then I will link the video down below and at the end of this one if you'd like to give it a watch. But this is basically split into 3 different storylines. So you're following the 3 different paths of this one child who is born, and the mum wants to choose his name. The father of the child wants him to be named after himself. His name is Gordon, sorry. His name's Gordon. He wants to name his child Gordon, but the mum doesn't want to. The mum wants to call the baby Julian, and the daughter wants to name, their daughter wants to name her baby brother Bear. So the chapters are split into names. The thing that I found confusing was that chapter 1 was following Bear, and then you wouldn't pick up the rest of Bear's story until chapter 4, and then you wouldn't pick up the rest of Bear's story until chapter 7. So it just became, if you weren't reading this in a big consecutive sittings, it became a little bit difficult to follow because I would forget what would happen earlier in the storyline, which is very much a me problem, and I'm very aware of that. But just a heads up if you're planning on reading this book. When I lent it to Freya, I said read it in big sittings because it might make it easier to follow. I don't think this book is what I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just like, oh, could someone's name change the course of their life growing up? But I feel like that's not really actually what the book's about. The book is more about domestic violence and just like what happens if you stand up to your abuser and things like that, which isn't a bad thing. I just don't think it was what I thought it was going to be. And there's also, I don't know, it made me feel a bit icky because of it. I'm trying to say this without giving any spoilers, but it just made me feel a bit icky is all I can say. I gave this 3.5 stars because I don't know, I wonder if really maybe it's a 3-star. Like I enjoyed parts of it, but I didn't love it, and I felt a bit deflated by it because it just wasn't what I thought it was going to be. So yeah, let me know down below if you've read this and what you thought, because yeah, it's a tough one. The final book of April, and I literally finished this on the last day of the month, and that is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. I read this quite quick and I found myself enjoying it, but then I found parts of it cringy. It was a very 50-50 read. I definitely kind of want to watch the film just to see what it's like. But I remember just being like, this is fine. This isn't amazing, but it's fine. I just went back and looked at my review on Fable. This is the thing with filming these so long after I read them. Like, I nearly finished this a month ago. But on my Fable, which I will link down below if you'd like to follow me over there, I wrote, this book was fine. Fast paced, yes, but some of the writing I did find a bit cringy. I like how it discussed domestic violence, relationships, and those struggles though. This is following a main character called Lily. She grew up with a abusive father to her mum, I believe, from memory. So it kind of discusses those topics. She wants to open a flower shop and she meets this guy. Yeah, you're kind of following their storylines, her starting up this flower shop, her getting to know this guy, his family, his people, her relationship with her mother. And yeah, it does cover some good topics, and I think the way it's spoken about is good. I don't know, it was fast paced, but it wasn't anything groundbreaking. It was an easy read. Do I have the urge to read, I think is the second book, it's like It Starts With Us or something? Part of me does, but I don't know. It wasn't my favourite. I gave it 3 stars. I know this is a really popular book as well, so maybe it just depends what you've read around the time. Look at all these books, plus some extras because I got them from the library. But what a month. What a load of rambling. Thank goodness I brought a squash in with me, because I've just yapped so much that my throat's like brr. On that note, I'm going to finish this video here, guys. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for 400 subscribers. I can't believe it. If you are new here and you're not subscribed, but you enjoy bookish content, cozy vlogs, cozy living, just general realistic lifestyle content, make sure to subscribe. We would love to have you here and have you as part of our little community over here. We have a lot of fun, if I do say so myself. Yeah, let me know down below what you are currently reading. I hope it's a really, really amazing book. And yeah, I will see you next week for another video. Bye guys.